We stood there alone in that silent corridor. Those unspoken words conjured fixation, capturing me. Fell helplessly into bliss, just like falling started to switch. And that brings everything that I miss, somewhat loved. The more I thought about you, was the less I thought about me. And I lost myself in this dream, somewhat loved. There you go. Breaking my heart, breaking my heart, breaking my heart again. No such thing as lovers and friends. Breaking my heart, breaking my heart, breaking my heart again. We only live to break my heart again. Spun out of control in this faithless world I must own. Angel turned his back, and where wings once were, they were no longer intact. Helplessly into bliss, just like falling started to swim. And that brings everything that I miss, someone else. The more I thought about you, was the less I thought about me. And I lost myself in this dream, someone else. Only someone they. Breaking my heart, breaking my heart, why you gotta give away? No such thing as love as a friend. Breaking my heart, breaking my heart, breaking my heart. Only live to break my heart again. Breaking my heart, breaking my heart, breaking my heart again.
The beautiful sounds of Mariah Carey.
Yeah,
I feel
with
like
the
I feel
with
like
the
I should be a DJ, right?
right with the neck stretcher.
Yeah, yeah, right.
You can only point at the nose, stretch your neck.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't actually hit the notes. You can just point to them.
Yeah,
It's up there somewhere when she starts hitting those notes.
yeah.
Hey, man, it's our very first live stream, man. I always say at this point of our lives, first of all, I should say hello to everybody. Welcome, everybody. This is Just Listen with Jam and Lewis. I'm Jimmy Jam.
And I'm Terry Lewis.
But it's been interesting. We're going to answer a bunch of your questions that you've asked, but one of the things that's interesting to me is that I kind of characterize it as first times in life that you have. When you're young, everything that happens for you is a first time. It's the first time you did this or the first time you did that, and then as you get at a little more advanced stage, there's less first times that can actually happen that you are going to have in front of you. So. I just really appreciate all the first times that are happening. Our first album, Jam and Lewis Volume One, after all this time, um, and today our very first live stream that we've ever done. So, this is cool. So, welcome everybody that's here.
That's right. Like Lakeside said, we all the way live.
We all the way live,
That's right.
just like Lakeside said. So, I'm going to start with. We're going to talk a little bit about general, just our philosophies on record making and all that. But I think we want to start. I think I'm going to just start with some questions. T, do you want to do that?
No, that's cool. We can just do some just general conversation, whatever, and talk about production. But yeah, we can start with questions. That's good.
A lot of the questions are that, but there was one that popped up from a friend of ours that I found on Instagram, and that's St. Paul Peterson.
What's up, St. Paul?
St. Paul from the family.
St. Paul from Minneapolis.
Yeah, St. Paul from Minneapolis, exactly. But for those that don't know, you may remember the family, Prince's group that he put together, the family, and St. Paul was the lead singer. Screams of Passion, classic record, one of my favorite records ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what people may not know is that literally his family is like almost, in a sense, the royal family of Minneapolis music. I mean, they've done it all, from mom to sons to grandsons to granddaughters to that is the most talented musical family I can remember in Minneapolis. So it's wonderful to have him aboard here. But he had an interesting question that I think I had to really think about it, because he said his question was, talk about how your lives changed being fired by Prince. Was there ever fear during that time? And then he said, because obviously things ended up so great for you both. And the reason I liked that question, besides the fact I liked who it was coming from, was I don't know whether I ever felt any fear. And I'm trying to, do you remember ever feeling fearful at that point?
Oh no, I was never feel fearful of being freed, because I don't.
Yeah, I know.
Once again, it's all perspective.
Yes.
He was firing us, but he was only allowing us the ability to go out and do what we wanted to do in the first place.
Right.
So we didn't have to answer to anyone else. So no, never any trepidation or fear. I was actually pissed, not because of being fired, but being segregated from my family. Yeah. Like the time was my family, and yes. I felt like I was letting my family down. So
yeah, I agree.
The fact that I was, fired and not going to get a paycheck, the paycheck wasn't shit anyway. Yeah, so, true. True. For those of you who don't know, we were making by that time we were making $250 a week. Yeah. But when we started, we were making 125. Mm-hmm. So, it wasn't that we were losing the paycheck or anything. It was the camaraderie that was being missed, and that what we had built as the time was so stellar. And I fell in love with that feeling of that, because we were all brothers. Like we were, tight. Yeah. And so that part of it, I was really pissed about, but I was never afraid of being away from that whole organization of events, I guess I would call it.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that we really didn't have time to really think about it, because literally the night we got fired, we went and mixed Just Be Good to Me that very same night. So it wasn't like we walked away with nothing to do. We walked away, went straight to the next studio, mixed our first, big record as producers. So we were on our path probably before we had time to even think about.
Yeah, well, we were on our path before we got called to come to the studio that night. So right, God had set things in motion for us already. Yeah, and this just allowed us to actually follow through and pay attention to it. Yeah, because we had to I remember sitting and trying to make the decision. I mean, it was a very quick decision, because when Prince called, be at the studio tonight at 7, we had already booked mixing time. Yeah. And so we said, wow, we already booked mixing time. So if we don't go to the time thing, we're going to get DOP. We were ready to take the DOP, but we said we committed to do the time thing, so that was the thing we wanted to do first.
Yeah, that was.
So we just said we were going to let the mix just take care of itself, and we were going to do whatever Prince asked us to do.
Right.
Because I remember many times he would call us and tell us to come to the studio, and you know, he'd say you're only going to be here for a few hours, and we'd be there all freaking night.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember that too.
So yeah, so no, never any. I guess the remorse was being separated from family, but as far as his control over the scenario and being, you know, afraid, no, wasn't afraid of that.
Yeah,
I'd bet on us anytime.
Oh, I agree. Well, we were betting on us anyway because, you know, one of the things that, well, we don't talk about it a whole lot, but that's the whole point of the broadcast here today is we can actually stretch out and talk about a few things. But I think that what people don't know is when we talk about betting on yourself, when we were in the time, we were losing money because we were flying ourselves to LA on the weekends to go in the studio and record. And we'd have what they call 24-hour lockout. And the idea of 24-hour lockout was you had the studio for the whole 24 hours so nobody else could come in. And normally if you had 24 hours locked out, you might go to the studio for 6-8 hours, maybe 10 hours or whatever, but you knew that the studio wasn't going to get changed. Nothing, no knobs were going to move and nothing was going to mess anything up because this is before digital. So you had to actually physically tune everything, right? And I remember we went in with the engineer and he was like, how long you guys think you'll be going? And we said, shit, we got 24-hour lockout. And he said, that doesn't mean you actually spend 24 hours in the studio. And we're like, oh, yes, it does. That's what it means for us. So I'd take a nap. Terry would work. Terry would take a nap. I'd work. Poor engineer, we drove him crazy. He was erasing stuff on a tape that wouldn't. What were we working on? Climax, I think.
Yep.
And he said, there was one little noise on the tape, and we said, no, it's cool. We can just mute it on the soundboard. And he was like, no, I can erase it. I can erase it. And he like went in too early. And this was the days there was no undo, kids, no undo. Once it was gone, it was in what do we call it? Magnetic heaven. Magnetic heaven, because it was all tape, magnetic tape. As soon as you erased it, it was gone forever. And he took one of the climax vocals and he hit record a little bit too soon.
Yeah.
And so we had to retool the whole song to make it go like that. We were just like, okay.
Heartbreaker, so fresh.
Right. It was supposed to be fresh. And he went fresh.
Fresh. I like my fish fried up fresh.
Fresh. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey, but we made it work, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, as a great friend of ours and co-worker, Alexander O'Neill says, if it's us and a bear in the woods, you better help the bear. Because
Alexander O'Neill don't need no help.
Don't need no help. Better help the bear.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, well, there's a chat happening. There's comments happening. Thank you. We got a lot of nice compliments on the Mariah record. We appreciate that. We tried to, the idea with the Mariah record was really simple. It was to try to incorporate all of the things that we love about Mariah into one song. So we love her beautiful ballads. We love her bops, as people like to call them, the bops, like Always Be My Baby and those types of songs. And we love the whistle vocals, as people call them. So we thought if we could do a song that really incorporated all the best parts of Mariah all in one song, that would be what we would try to do. And the funny story about that was that we sent Mariah a track that we thought was a pretty cool track. And she called us and she said, yeah, I'm not sure whether I can really do justice to this track the way you guys want me to, which I think was kind of like, in other words, I don't really like the track. I think I don't know, right. but a very polite way.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that. How about that?
Yeah, I'm not feeling that track. And then she said, but I have this other track that I thought might be kind of cool. I'm going to send it to you. I'm like, cool. So she sends us the track. And the track was literally just piano and her singing. But we thought it was beautiful. So we were like, okay, cool. Well, the piano part and everything's cool, but let's make it into a bop. And so that's the reason it starts off like a nice little ballad, because that's kind of what she had in mind. And then we put the little bounce to it, which is actually the feeling for that was a Brenda Russell. For anybody that remembers Brenda Russell back in the day, Brenda Russell had a song called "So Good So Right" that had that had that little vibe to it, and that's what it kind of felt like. That should be what we do for this song. So we kind of put that little vibe on it, and then the cool thing was we sent it back to Mariah, and we said, how do you like it now? And she said, I got to re-sing it. I got to re-sing it now. It's got a beat to it. I got to sing it to the beat. And 2 days later, she sang it and sent it back, because this is all COVID recording. Some of the recording was pre-COVID, but this was middle of COVID recording. So literally, it was just sending files back and forth. You know, we'd send her the track, she'd send us vocals back, we'd mix it, send it back to her for approval, and that kind of thing. But anyway, we ended up getting the song done, and we're glad. I'm seeing from the comments that you guys are liking it. We appreciate that very much. And really, with all the songs on our album, the ideal was to try to take your favorite artist and make you fall in love with them again, you know, or remember that time when you fell in love with them. And but the cool thing that's happened is that the artists have all fell back in love with themselves too, because as artists, they never get a chance to take the time to maybe take the time out to appreciate their own gifts. But with our record, because we basically said we'll do all the work, we just need your vocal or whatever. Then when they hear the finished product, then they feel like, oh man, they're hearing it, but without having to put all of the nitpicking and all the stuff that normally you would have to put into it. So I think they're happy about that. So that's really the best part.
Well, yeah, just to clarify too, on a different level, like for you that don't know, the art of production, a high percentage of it, and I don't even want to quantify it, but is listening for mistakes.
Yeah.
So when you produce, you just sit there and you try to find the best possible pieces of everything that is the best feeling, correct-ish that you can possibly get. So you're listening for mistakes, which is really tedious. So for any artist that's singing or playing and producing their own self, it's like excruciating to sit there and listen to yourself try to become your best self. It's really difficult. And that's kind of our job. We kind of take that job away from artists when we produce. And this, you know, I love listening for the mistakes. It's great because I love hearing the perfectly imperfect vocals. I love that because that's where the feeling gets generated. Takes you someplace.
I do too, and I'm glad that early on in our careers, one of the first people to really help us out and really stick us in a recording studio and let us figure out what the heck we were doing was a guy named Leon Silvers III. And Leon Silvers III produced back in the day all the Solar Records stuff. So the Shalimar records, the Whispers records, all those great records from back in the day. And not only did he produce those records, but his engineer was a guy named Steve Hodge, and Steve Hodge mixed all of those records. So when we first went out to LA, that was our whole thing, is we got to find Steve Hodge because we want him to mix our records. But we got a chance to actually meet Leon Silvers. We actually played in a celebrity basketball game with him. I think it was the Silvers versus K-Day, maybe? I can't remember the station, but it was a station versus the Silvers. And I just remember they would, every time they'd go to the free throw line, the girls in the crowd would go, hotline, hotline, like they'd sing their song. It was hilarious. But I remember after that, after the game was over, Leon took us to the studio where he recorded, and we all hung out. And that's how we got our sort of our break, I guess if you call it that, when we came to LA, when, you know, Terry said, let's go to LA and figure it out. That was a big break. And
that's where we met John McClain as well.
That's all. Yeah, that's right. That's where we met John McClain, because John McClain was also at the studio the same day, and we had put together a little demo tape at that point when it was about demo tapes, a little cassette, and we had, I don't know, 8 songs on there probably, and everybody that listened to it picked different songs. Like Climax picked a song.
Yeah.
High Hopes was on there, which ended up SOS Band, which Leon ended up producing. I think When You're Far Away, Gladys Knight and the Pips was on there.
Yeah.
Real to Real was on there.
Yeah. Can you treat me like she does?
Yeah, Can You Treat Me Like She Does?
Yeah.
That's an obscure one, by the way, if anybody can find that one.
Oh, that one's funky too. That one's funky.
No, that's a good one. That one got us in trouble. Well, it's funny. So at the beginning of the conversation, or not I shouldn't say at the beginning of the conversation, but actually yesterday or earlier today, we were on Breakfast Club, and one of the parts of the conversation we were talking about was the reason that Prince didn't want us to do other records was because he didn't want us to give the sound away, the time sound away. And part of the time sound was the way you play bass, Terry, was the boogaloo bass, as we sometimes call it, or as Leon Silvers called it, the patent bass.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not going to put the patent in the bass, then I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to put the patent in there myself. But the patent on the bass is like when you use you're not playing a note, you're just using the percussiveness of hitting the strings. So if you think about the way, Terry plays his style, that was the style. So when we did the record, it was all, it was like the percussion of the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when we heard it, we realized, oh, you can tell that's Terry playing the bass. And we always wanted to give everybody their own sound. So when we did that, it was like, man, we got to take that patent out of there like that. So I remember Terry went and redid the bass, but Leon had already heard it the way that he originally did it. So Leon was like, what happened to the patent? And we were like, no, we took that out, man, because, I'm not trying to get fired. And he wanted that patent back in there. He said, I'll do it myself. But Terry did it. But,
No, I think Leon did it. He did the Leon.
Did he do it? Did Leon do it? So you never went back and did it, T?
No, I didn't put the patent back, man.
I
would rather be shot in the butt with a bow and arrow, man. At that time.
Oh, that's funny. I thought you had gone back and done it at some point.
No, man, I wasn't gonna do things that would gonna just blatantly get us in trouble. Like that was just, that song was just us writing. So it was, those songs were never intended to be anything but just us writing. So had a bunch of songs in there with Val Young. I'm a bad lady and I knew it.
Yeah.
Just having fun. Love me. Yeah, all that stuff. Man.
Yeah, that was a good song.
Yeah, had a lot of great songs on that demo.
Yeah, we did those all on those demos. By the way, were 4-track. I see a lot of people asking equipment questions. Let me grab a few of these real quick. Somebody asked, are we Pro Tools or Logic, Studio One, Cubase, Pro Tools, so on and so forth? So I can tell you, this was a Jay Lane that asked that question. So Jay, we kind of multitask. I like Logic to write in.
I like Pro Tools.
Yeah, Terry likes Pro Tools. So what'll happen is if I create a track in Logic and I send it to Terry, he just drags it into Pro Tools and then does everything that he needs to do in Pro Tools. And the only time I'll go back to Logic at that point is if we need overdubs on stuff, then I'll go ahead and do the overdubs in Logic. So we kind of work in both. Ableton we never really got into, and Studio One there was a writer that we were working with a little bit who was a girl but she was into that, and she tried to get us into that. And I think Teddy Riley is Studio One, if I'm not mistaken, too. I think he had talked to us about that too. It's tough to learn new stuff because we're just old. It's like once you figure out how to do stuff.
I actually love Luna, but
Luna's good. Yeah,
some of the things just aren't ready for prime time, but it's getting better. But I absolutely love Luna.
Yeah, that's Universal Audio, right?
Yes.
And overall, their stuff is really great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Universal Audio stuff's really great. And the other cool thing that's happened on our record was some of it is, the Babyface record was recorded in analog, analog 24 track tape, because we felt that's what it needed. But the Charlie Wilson song on our album was basically done in my laptop. At least the track for it was done in my laptop. So the idea of having all the tools available to get things done however you need to get them done, and knowing how to use those tools, that just comes with experience. That's where you just got to learn. You got to just figure it out. But during these times of having to record, like we say, some of it we were able to sit in the studio together. Some of it, because of COVID, it was just files back and forth. Terry, of the two of us, is definitely the one that's always thinking ahead forward in technology. I remember back in Minneapolis, when we were still recording on analog tape, and Terry was the first time I'd seen he had in his computer, I don't remember what it was called. You had one of the first DAWs.
Yeah, PC based DAWs. Yeah, it was a Soundscape.
Soundscape.
Yeah, which led me to want to do digital recording, and eventually led me to the Radar.
Right. Oh, the Radar. Yeah. Radar.
At that time, Otari had licensed the Radar from Is.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we got the Is Radar.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I always loved the technology, and, just a reflection back when, Jam says we're old, but I say like our hard drive is full. Because we started before any of this stuff even existed. Like when we first started playing music, there were no synthesizers really.
Yeah, that's true.
And they just came about while we were actually learning to play. And so we were one of those first generations that kind of combined real instrumental proficiency with actual technology. And we kind of merged the two and became comfortable with both worlds, where I don't think a lot of other generations had to do both.
Yeah, it was an interesting time coming up, because you're right. When we started, there was no such thing as synthesizers. There was, there was electronic keyboards, but it was clavinets. It was a Farfisa organ.
B3.
Yeah. Yeah. But Fender Rhodes pianos and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the synthesizers that did exist initially only could play one note at a time.
Right.
And yeah, so it was a different thing. And you had to, not only did you have to learn to actually play your instrument, but you also had to learn how to get along with people, because it was tough to really do everything yourself. You had to have a vibe with people. You'd have a guitar player and a bass player and a drummer and a keyboard player or whatever, some horns a lot of times, or a percussion player. But the idea was you had to get everybody to be on the same page and play together, basically like a team. Basically, it's like playing one-on-one basketball, which you can do nowadays, but it was like, no, you had to have a team of people to make it sound good. And I think a lot of the psychology of working with people and producing people came from those days where you had to all get along, but also came from when we started off playing, we were a cover band, meaning that we played everybody else's songs. And that taught us the tools to make hits, because the songs we would play would all be hit songs. And you'd notice certain similarities that songs would have. And then the other piece of it was that I was a DJ also. So I was DJing at the roller rink and the clubs and the radio. I was doing all of that. So then I was learning what filled the dance floor, what made people want to dance, and all those kinds of things. So all of those kinds of the seasoning, I guess we call it.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot of seasoning,
Yeah. Well, like you said, being able, if music is the universal language, then the communication between those who create music has to be universal as well.
Yeah, right.
And, we've kind of lost that a little bit, because everything is kind of monolithic in today's world. You got people creating things on their own, they're the engineer, they master it themselves. They play all the instruments or put it in by MIDI themselves. They don't get anybody else's associated concept with it.
Right.
And it kind of tears the dimension down to where a more of a monolithic thing, where as if you come in the studio, you bring something different than everyone else that's in there. And so when you combine all those things together, it just makes that whatever creation that you create a much wider, denser creation, because everybody's piece of it is addition.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it just gets bigger and bigger in terms of the feel. So when people say, well, why don't records sound like those old records anymore? Because they used to be done live. They used to be done with people doing things. So if you play a little something different, the drummer does a little something different, makes me play a little something different.
Right.
And everybody is kind of finding their way through and creating something that's very unique and special per that take, because it's different from take to take when you play along with people, because it never comes out the same. It's kind of the same parts, but it's never articulated the same.
Yeah, I was listening to last night. There's a guy that does it. It's called the Session IG Live, and he was breaking apart Control. And one of the things we were noticing on Control, which I mean, I sort of remember that, but I would always say I never really sequenced anything. You know, I put the drum beat in, but then we'd even play stuff live over that. And then our cymbals and our percussion and all the stuff, we would always play that live. So it would always have a live feel to it, even if it was a drum machine. But then even like the synthesizer parts, the bass lines and all of that, it was never a sequence. It was never a loop. It was like, you know, if we played for 5 minutes, it would be 5 minutes of, you know, whatever came out.
Different things, right?
Yeah. And so you would always end up with those special moments where maybe one thing would happen that was like really cool, and then you'd have to rewind it or whatever to go back to 4 minutes to hear what that was, you know. So those kinds of things I think made things a little bit different than the way people think about it now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at some of the questions here. Oh, somebody said, Annette Ward Riddick, did you go to Eugene Field Elementary? Yes, I did. Remember the time capsules. Oh my God, that is so funny. Yep, 40. What was that school on? 46th and 4th? No, what street was that on? 4th Avenue? I can't remember. I just remember what I do remember about Field was there was a little store across the street from it, and everybody after school would go to that store and get Now or Laters or I'm trying to think what the other big candy was back then. Well, everybody liked licorice. I didn't like licorice, but I remember that. Man, that was really in the old days.
So you got to be lost on that one, brother, because you know
that's Southside. That's Southside.
Yeah, I'm forever Northsider.
I know, man. I know. I'm sorry, man.
I'm St. Paul.
Let me see. There might be
before that, and then
there might be a
before that, I'm Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm all over the place. You know, I'm all over the place.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, so let me see here. Somebody said name your 3 favorite all-time albums.
Oh, what's going on? Number 1.
Yeah, we agree with that. That's definitely number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a 2 and 3? If you had to name 3, but the funny thing is, it'll change from day to day.
Yeah.
You know? Although What's Going On is consistently a number 1. That's been probably our favorite album since we met. So
right.
That's pretty consistent.
Marvin Gaye. Man, it's hard. 2 and 3 would be very difficult, but knowing what I would choose, it would be an Earth, Wind and Fire album, and I don't know which one.
Right.
Because Earth, Wind and Fire really changed my viewpoint on how to combine spirituality, fun, and music.
Mm-hmm.
That really that was a real big change in my life. And then from there, man, it's gonna be something funky for me.
Yeah.
And there's so much funky stuff, man, between the P-Funk, Parliament Funkadelic world, Yeah, gotta have that.
Yep.
Prince. I could probably get some Prince in there, man.
Yeah.
But I love so much of everything, man. Bobby Womack, Johnny Taylor. I love. And for those of you who don't know, I actually did a stint of playing with Sam and Dave. Now, when I was like 17 years old, and they came to Minneapolis, and their bass player couldn't play for some reasons, and I won't even say and try to put his shit all out in the street. But anyway, I was blessed to be able to go out and play some gigs with Sam and Dave for a minute, and them boys taught me a whole lot of stuff, man. They was funky as hell. And they told me, boy, you play on the E and the A string, no plucking, none of that. You had to play the bass. You play the bass, and they taught me how to lay on that thing, take that treble out that amp. We just needed the sound. And man, Sam Moore, what an incredible instrument he had, man. I'm sure he still has it, because Sam is one of the most underrated singers I've ever seen. My three underrated singers, Sam Moore, Walter from the OJs, just gracious, man.
Yes.
Yeah. Who was my other one? I had it just a minute ago, but this is what happens when your hard drive is full. You start to get that little spinning thing.
You get that rainbow wheel.
Yeah. But man, these guys, man, were just lethal with that instrument, man. And they just never got their just due in terms of how dope they were.
Right. Well, if you're Walter, it's tough because you're in a group with Eddie Revert, so that's the problem there.
Yeah. Well, and Sam just came up, just when he came up, man, just think of all the people that were there and available.
Yeah.
You talk about Sam Cook. You just name the list. You say, okay, so where do you fit in?
Yeah, that's right.
How do you fit in? And enough people didn't get to see him because they were playing chitlins. They were playing the chitlin bars. They were playing the biker bars.
Right. Yeah, that was a whole different.
That was a whole different thing. Yeah.
By the way, I don't know whether everybody can see this, but I'm just going to show this picture here. So for those of you that ask about Terry Lewis, this was Terry Lewis at 17 years old.
Yeah, move it over there.
What'd you say?
You didn't have it in the middle.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
That's good.
Yeah. I know there's a technologically correct way to do it, so we'll figure all that out on the next live stream. This is the first one. By the way, we'll take suggestions on what you guys would like to do because we're doing this for you guys.
Yeah, well, I think I was probably about 16, 17.
Yeah, 16, 17 years old. But when I always talk about when I saw you with a red, black, and green bass, there's the red, black, and green bass right there.
Nation time. Y'all don't know what that is, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was all about the nation, Each one teach one, man.
Yep.
Let's go.
That was an amazing. It was love at first sight when I saw Terry Lewis, and it's basically love at first sight every time I see him.
Yeah, and when y'all talk about why we wear hats, I've been wearing hats forever. So testimony.
Well, that shows you. I mean, that's the proof. 16, 17 years old, you're already rocking the fedora.
Yeah, and I have to pull out one of my baby pictures when I was really a baby in a trench coat and a hat. Just funky. I was. Oh,
wait, you got one with you? Or
I don't have one with me. Maybe later.
Next week.
I'll try to dig through the archives and find.
Okay. Yeah. I want to see that.
Back when I was a little dusty and had a little white shit around my mouth,
Right, exactly.
You know how you had a little white shit around your mouth.
Hell yeah. Yep. I'm with you.
But I was still clean.
Anyway, so I don't know that we answered the album question, but those are the albums that we really like. There's too many of them to name. We've lived way too long to just have a few of them. So there's a ton of them.
Oh yeah, Mother's Finest.
Mother's Finest.
Anything funk and roll, anything that would that served multiple genres and just kind of fused itself into one. And then you go through. I know I went through a whole period of time where I didn't want to deal with the music from my adolescence, that kind of stuff. And then I got into fusion jazz and, Chick Corea and all that stuff. Everybody's playing 1,000 notes at a time. Al Di Meola, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Got to go through all of that.
Well, that was interesting because we played a lot of that kind of stuff, you know, the weather report and those kinds of tough songs. And I remember the Brecker Brothers. We used to love the Brecker Brothers. They used to
Oh
have
yeah.
some great stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
then the Tower of Power stuff, man, was amazing.
Tower Power, Sea Wind.
Sea Wind. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we played all that stuff. So when I talk about the seasoning that we had, it was that, you know, not only, you know, I mentioned we played the songs that were on the radio, but we also played the songs. What was the band? Oh, Pleasure.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
They were a ridiculous band.
Yeah.
So if you were learning to play those songs, you had to be up on your instrument.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that was some great stuff. And which reminds me of one other thing that we get asked all the time is, you know, sampling. We've done a lot of sampling over the years. We've always loved it. We love the idea of bringing the you know, bringing the generations together and having music, the bridges that music builds. And what was interesting because we actually sampled. Somebody asked me about the music on Free Zone on Janet's album the other day. They said, "That music on Free Zone, who did that music?" And I said, "That's Pleasure." And they're like, "It is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." But it's like we could always tell if you ever wanted to know what music we really loved, just listen to any of the samples that we did on the records. A lot of James Brown, a lot of Sly and the Family Stone. Um, oh, matter of fact, it was funny. We did on Sirius XM. There's a show called Debatable. Terry and I did it a couple of days ago, and Mark Goodman, who's one of the hosts, they always do a song of the day. And you reminded him of Scream because a couple of days ago they were doing what was the best choreography, like in a music video.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Scream to him. So he
Right.
said he'd been thinking about Scream the whole time. So anyway, he did the Scream Louder remix that we did. That was his song of the day today.
Oh, that's cool.
He texted me earlier about that, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that's the choreography of that is like you get two of the best, 2 for 1.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't a lot, but it was a lot.
It was just enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any more you couldn't, your head would have exploded.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, that was amazing stuff. So let me see here. Legendary music producers said, "Who influenced us as kids? Who influenced us as kids?" I mean, I know that for me, when I was a kid, I was influenced by the music my parents played, obviously, which was a lot of Ray Charles, Nat King Cole. Um, I even remember I was saying to the guy that we were at a record store the other day, A1 Records in New York, and they had 78 records, the 10-inch 78 records. And I said, I remember those. I remember those. We had I remember King Records, Bill Doggett, and there was a few other people. But yeah, I mean, the records that I grew up with in my house as a, you know, as a kid, that's all the things I remember, you know.
Yeah, we had all those records, man. We had blues.
Yeah.
You know, Bobby Blue Bland, B.B. King, Albert King.
Yep.
Mahalia Jackson. My brother was rocking some. What was the name? Shoot, don't turn around.
Group Black Ivory.
Black Ivory. Oh yeah, he's rocking that Black Ivory, man. And then
yeah.
And then you know, Sly and the Family Stone came along and made me want to actually be in a band. I mean, that shit looked so fun, man.
Right.
They made it look fun, and then you know, all the singing groups. It was just so much great music.
Yeah, man. No, it was amazing.
So much.
It was amazing. And you know, it was funny because when we met too, I think people probably know this, but I grew up in Minneapolis. It was all pop radio basically. There was a sun up to sundown black station, but literally it was sun up to sundown. And if you didn't crank your head in the right way or have your antenna on your radio tuned the right way, you couldn't even hear it. But I grew up with pop music. So when I met Terry, I was excited when the new Chicago record was coming out. It was like Seals and Crofts and America and all these groups like that. And Terry was like, "No, man, what about Earth, Wind, and Fire and New Birth and
New Birth."
Yeah, man. I was like, "Oh, New Birth, man, come on, ridiculous."
Oh yeah, when I say those groups too, I can never forget, because I always forget. But like some of my favorite music back in that day, DJ Rogers.
Yeah.
You know, there was Donny Hathaway, of course, and then the Stair Steps.
Oh yeah,
The
Kenny
Stair
Burke.
Steps, man. Oh yeah, Kenny, man. Love the Kenny, man. Love that dude. One of those dudes that like gave me a clue about the bass. Just always on top of it.
Yeah. You talked to him not that long ago, right?
Oh yeah, man. No, he's just a gem of a human being, man. He's dope. Y'all should know about Kenny because he's a bad boy.
Yeah.
Robert Wilson, Gap Band.
Yes.
Yeah. Dope.
Amazing.
Dope bass. And, Charlie, of course. A lot of y'all don't even know that Charlie plays. Charlie is. Whoo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of those Gap Band songs, he was firing up that bass line and that whole the theme of it, along with singing it. That's Charlie Wilson.
Yep.
Yeah, gotta give him his props.
Well, it's one of the things we talked about recently too, about how musicians have a different relationship with the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the things that, for us, we always use Aretha Franklin as the example. Is the way she played the piano, was the way she sang. We got a chance to go to her house and listen to her just play and sing, which was mind-boggling. But even today's talent, like her, who's our favorite, is a musician. And Prince, who's our favorite, was the best musician ever on every instrument. Just take your instrument from you and play better than you.
Absolutely. But then Tony Braxton is a stellar musician. And Nesby can sit down on the piano or the organ and tear your ass up. Like she'll tear it all the way. She'll give it to you. And people don't know that. It's like these people are so talented. I always say, learn the people in the room when you're in room with people. Like actually sit down and have a conversation because you never know the talent. We have people come in the studio. I remember is a great story of an artist that came in to work with us, and he'd come in every day thinking he was all that. And he'd come in and he would, be late and, so about 3 or 4 days into that, I said, okay, I'm gonna have to let the dogs loose on it. I said, all right. So he came in late and I said, yeah, dude, you've been in here every day acting like you all that. Let me let you see the kind of talent that's around you, because through the grace of God, you got the opportunity, but you don't have an ounce of talent that these people around you got. So I had the sick people on him with Bobby Ross, Shalea, Big Jim Wright. We were just sicking people on him. And then Lauren Evans came in and had her sing a song. And then there was this little girl named Lake, and she came in and she started singing. And we tried to get him to sing. He didn't want to sing no more.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because I'm like, dude, you got to know who the people are around you. You're blessed to get any opportunity. So you got to take it seriously and try to get your craft right and stop thinking that you're all that. Learn from these people, even if you don't know as much as they do. You know
who I remember really I was so impressed with was when we had the studio in Santa Monica, and there was this dude sitting outside the studio every night, and he was on his laptop. And I'd say hello to him. I didn't know who he was, but he was there, and he was there. I think you were working with Usher probably at that point. And he was just sitting in the hallway and just doing his thing on his laptop and stuff, and it was cool. And then I remember one day you called him into the studio and said, hey, you got an idea for this? And, whatever. And I guess he killed it, knocked it out the park, came up with a great idea and whatever. And I was so proud of him. I didn't know who he was. I was like, man, that's good for you, man. You got into the studio finally. And so fast forward about 2 months later, maybe 3 months later, we're at the ASCAP Awards, and we're there. We're picking up a few awards and stuff. And then they say, oh, and here's a brand new talent that's just coming out. He just released his debut album, so and so and so and so. And here he is, and he comes out and it's Miguel.
Mm-hmm.
And Miguel comes up and starts singing. What was that? All I Want Is You, I think was the song. Doom,
Oh
doom,
yeah.
doom,
Oh
doom,
yeah.
right? And I think it was Max or Tyler, one of my kids who had seen him at the studio, said, "Oh, Dad, that's the kid from the studio."
Yep.
And I'm going, "What?" He
Yep.
killed it. I was like, "Oh my God, that's the dude!" And you're like, "No, that's the dude. That's the one that was sitting in the hallway all those evenings on his laptop figuring out lyrics and doing stuff." But when I called him in the room, he was ready. Like it
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, do you have an idea for this?" Yeah. Like not only
Yeah.
do I have an idea, I got a million ideas for this. We're gonna kill,
Yeah. And well, shit, when they played me his project,
Mm-hmm.
I was more excited about that one than what we was working on at the
Right.
time. I
Yeah.
was like, I just had to tell Mark Pitts at that time, like, leave this kid alone, let him do his own thing, man. Don't
Yes.
go in there trying to produce him and put him with a bunch of people.
Yep.
Just let him do his thing. He's going to be just fine.
Yep.
You know,
And,
because
and he's been just fine.
he's been just fine. Yeah, he messed up the sauce. Another one like that is Schaefer.
Oh, Schaefer. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
Schaefer.
yeah, because he came up and was writing for a project with us.
Yep.
I forget who we were working with. And he came over and he was writing some great songs. I'm like, this kid is dope.
Well,
He was working with some writers of ours.
Yeah, but that was the thing. I was hearing, it was funny because when I was hearing the writers were talented, but when I was hearing the stuff, the tracks they were coming up with,
right,
and then I'm trying to think of a melody or I'm trying to think of an idea for it, I couldn't come up with anything. I was like, no, I don't hear nothing for that. I don't hear nothing for that. I don't hear nothing for that. And then when I think you got the demo that Schaefer did, he's singing over the top of this stuff, and it sounds like amazing.
Like a record.
Yeah, it sounds like a record. Like it should just be on the radio. And I'm like going, wait, who came up with that? You came up with that? He's like, yeah. And that's you singing? Yeah. Man,
and for those of you who don't know who Schaefer is,
he goes by the name of
Neo.
Neo.
He's in the Matrix now.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because then when his records came out and he was like a new artist and everybody was like, oh man, he's so, and we were like, yeah, we knew it though. We knew it. He amazing dude.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. But it's always fun to come across people like that, that are so talented, but also they put the work in though. None of these people are lazy. None of these people are like trying to think that, oh, I'm so good or I'm so whatever. They get in there and they're there every day on time, working hard, trying to learn. And that's the people you want to see do well. I mean, there's really nobody I don't want to see do well, quite honestly. I want to see everybody do well. But those are the people to me that really deserve it. They put the time in and then, they do their thing.
So. Right. Well, you know what? It's out of our hands. It's above our pay grade. But, I always say that you get what you put into it.
Yeah.
And, it's easier to get a break than to keep one. So you're only as good as your next song, your next product. So you have to make sure that you're staying on the task. Got to be on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's do a few more audience here. There's a lot of questions coming through. Let's see. Matt Bedford Official on Instagram. He said, I have a question for both of you. How do you go about it when you both have differing ideas on a song? It's a good question because we always say we never have arguments because we never want to win an argument because that would mean the other person lost an argument. So one of the things we did early on was we shook hands, 50-50 handshake. So then that takes away any problem that you're going to have about, who did what on a song. Like, that's my melody, that's my lyric, that's my title, it's my bridge, or it doesn't matter. We don't ever have those discussions. So that makes it real simple, number one. But then it's not about an argument. It's about we may have a disagreement. So a disagreement is one you're trying to solve, something you're trying to solve. And the idea is the best way wins. Doesn't matter whether it's my idea or Terry's idea. It's whatever the best way wins, and that's the way we look at it. So that's pretty simple. The other thing is we have complete freedom to do what we want to do. There's songs that Terry's done totally by himself, and I haven't heard them until the record's out, and it's sounding great. I'm like, damn, that sounds great, T. When'd you do that? You know, and vice versa. There's records that I've done that Terry hasn't heard till pretty much they've come out. But the idea is it's all 50-50, so it doesn't really matter. So it takes all of the competitiveness and all that stuff. You know, it takes it out of there. So
absolutely,
yeah. So
hey, Michael Mercury Hayes says he wants you to talk about the Oberheim synthesizer, or as Rick James would say, synthesizer.
Synthesizer.
The synthesizer.
You know, I was introduced to the Oberheim synthesizer for the first time. I actually auditioned for Prince's band when he was putting his band together. And when I walked in, that's what he had. He had Oberheim synthesizer, but I never played them in my life. But I remember playing, I had to learn all the songs on the first album, which I did. But I didn't play them very good. You know, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So, but that was the first time I saw those. And I'll never forget what was called the Oberheim 4-voice. And when we got in the time, that's what they had for us, was one of Prince's old Oberheim 4-voices. And man, that thing was like, when we hit the first note of Get It, I know it wasn't even Get It Up at that point. It was the stick. We used to play the stick as the first song.
Mm-hmm.
And it was boom, my stick. I just love that stick. And that was dun, 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 dun. That thing was so fat. The sound of it was amazing. And then I remember one night after we were getting that ass a little bit too good, then all of a sudden there was a new synthesizer sitting up there, which was called an OBSX. And it sounded like shit. It was the worst. I couldn't figure out how to get a good sound out of it. And I was like, what was the guy? Don Batts was his name, the keyboard tech.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Don, where's the 4-voice, man? Oh, this is the new one. This is the new whatever. I'm like, no, man, give me my 4-voice back. Well, they never did. But then luckily they got, the next generation came out. The OBX came out and the OBA came out. So we were good after that. But that first OBSX thing, that was horrible. I didn't know what to do with that thing. So, but yeah, the Oberheim, the 4-voice is still, that's still on my wish list or bucket list or bucket list, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
To get one of those back. Because I love that synthesizer.
That's one to love, man. Just the sound of it, and also just the way it plays is just is just incredible. You know, certain synthesizers, just for you that don't know, when Jam plays certain synthesizers, he plays different because the wheels and the paddles and the joysticks and whatever, they all play a little different. So it just it models itself a different way, so it comes out a different feel.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that synthesizer, the 4-voice synthesizer, actually had a wheel. It wasn't even a wheel like with a thumb type of wheel thing. It was like a knob.
Yeah.
And so when we would do like Get It Up, and it was like the boom, like literally it was just turning the knob on the thing. It was beautiful. I gotta get one.
But see that stuff to me is great, because you started at the beginning of the inception of those things, and then went through all the generations. So you understood, you know, what the portamento did and what like most people don't even understand what any of those things are and what they mean. You had to start from the beginning, figuring out how to make that thing work. And, you know, you guys were just like crazy on those things. Yeah. Prince being the master, and everybody that came after him in that sector just became, you know, Matt Fink and you and Monty, y'all just were just stupid. Lisa.
Yeah, but that was the thing that was cool about it, was that you were around. I was around great keyboard players. I mean, Prince was the top of the top, but Matt Fink was ridiculous. Lisa was ridiculous.
Yep.
You know, Monty Moyer was ridiculous. You know, it was like you just were around the best of the best, so you had to keep your chops up, or you were gonna get cut.
Yeah.
You know? So I love that. And you know, my chops back in those days were probably the best that they'd ever been because we would rehearse 6 hours a day every single day. You
Yeah,
know,
man.
so yeah, it's just a different, definitely a different time.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
you know, speaking of bands, a lot of people have been asking about Mint Condition, you know, which is
Oh yeah,
a band that we love and
yes,
definitely appreciate. And you know, Stokely is part of our label right now, and his new record Sankofa will be his album will be released in September. So be on the lookout for that. Just in case you didn't know, now you know. That
yeah,
everybody know now.
yeah,
But absolutely, Sankofa is a great piece of work. Man.
yeah. It's an amazing album. He's taken his time to really put together something that not only is musically transcendent, but I think it's life transcendent, just in
Mm-hmm.
its themes. And, you know, and the fact that he went physically to Africa to,
And to shoot
you
his
know,
video, yeah, next video.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's as authentic as you can get. That's not where you want the feel of something. It's like, no, I'm gonna go over there and actually do it, immerse myself in it. I'm not sticking my toe in it. I'm jumping in. And
Yeah,
but that's the way Stokely is. I mean, he's an elevated dude in talent, and an elevated dude in just his desire for musical excellence. And you've always heard that over the years, but it's on a whole another level now to me.
yeah. Well, and just so you understand what the concept of Sankofa is, it's a Ghanaian term for. Don't quote me on this, but the gist of it is going back and getting your roots to move ahead.
Yeah.
So go get that information. Everybody, that's what you know. You go back and you get your history, you get your lineage, you get the things that you're built from, and you bring those things forward because those things inspire you and give you wisdom as you move forward. So, you know, it's like when we were being raised, like I was always around old people. And old people would always give you the one-liners and the wisdom that you couldn't figure out. And now I am that guy. I had the one-liners, man, because my mom got the one-liners. So, um, you know, Sankofa is such a dope record, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's going to be good. Well, you know what? In one of these weeks, we'll do. And once again, we appreciate all the suggestions. Please put suggestions into our Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or wherever you follow us at. Give us suggestions of things you'd like to see, and questions you'd like for us to answer. Um, you know, whatever that is. And but we just want to go ahead and do this and try this out and see how it all works. So we hope you're enjoying what we're doing. We're not going to keep you too much longer here. Well, I guess you guys can tune out whenever you want to. Terry and I sit around and do this all day anyway, so
Right?
we're not holding you hostage. You can't just log off if we're boring you to death. But I love seeing Terry. So, hey, by the
Yeah.
way, somebody just said that bass line on Alexander O'Neal's "You Were Meant to Be My Lady" is a killer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Woo!
That's back when grown men was playing bass. I done turned
Man,
into
I
a baby
love
now.
that song.
I'm a baby on the bass now because we don't get to play as much as we used to. But
So what people
it's
don't
still
know
fun.
is, and what people don't know, by the way, is that you're doing the backgrounds on that song too. I
Oh
used to
yeah,
call Terry Mr. Background.
yeah,
So he's hitting all those backgrounds on that one.
yep.
I love that, man. Uh, let's see what else. Candace Vaughn on Facebook. I'm curious to know what your creative process is like. Do you just lock yourselves in the studio until the perfect beat emerges? Do you pull inspiration from somewhere or something specific? Well, sometimes
Yeah,
we lock ourselves in the studio.
yeah. Well, I like to say there's several ways to do records.
Yes.
You know, we can do records on know-how. You know, like you know how to find the key that kind of works. You know how to find a beat that kind of works. You can, you know, kind of know musically what fits an artist a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can kind of guess around with it like that. But we would much rather be inspired to create something for the particular artist at hand, starting from scratch. And a lot of times we'll go in the studio with an artist and we're just sitting around talking, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Jam would be sitting at the keyboard and he'll just be playing little riffs. And then the artist will say, "Ooh, what's that? What? What's what?" That's what Jam always says.
Yeah, right. That is true.
Jimmy Jam. What? But we always run a tape in the background. So, well, not tape now. It's just a Pro Tools file that just records everything, because it's hard to go back. Once the inspiration comes, you have to capture it. So we capture things and then say, "What's that?" And we go back and we figure out what it was. And then we start building from that process right there. So that's kind of just the basic start of a process normally. Either that or the artist has said a few things that inspired just the concept, where, you know, Jam, he's a looper, so he'll say, "Ooh, I know exactly what to do with that," and he'll run and get whatever he thinks is the proper feel or loop or whatever for the suggestion that he has in his mind. A lot of times that happens, and sometimes it happens from just the title in the book of titles that we have.
Yes,
you know,
or now the iPhone of titles.
Yeah, iPhone of titles.
But whenever somebody says something that's kind of interesting, we just write it down. And then sometimes if an artist comes in and has a certain idea or a certain thing that they're trying to go, we'll look at it and then that title will come up and then we kind of write the song from that.
Yes.
There's another question. Go ahead.
The Next Best Day is like a great example of that. That's a song the guys came in and, you know, they
Boyz II Men on our album, by the way.
Yes. And they wanted to do a song, kind of an anniversary song, because they had been together for X amount of years at that point. I forget how many years it was. And just wanted to come up with something that was an anniversary, but love type thing, or it could be wedding, it could be a lot of different things, but just the appreciation for one another and for the moment, and just appreciating the moment and the moment to come. Yeah. And that song was just born out of that concept. Today is a precious day. The day is the most precious day of my life. Tomorrow's the next best day.
Right.
So let's celebrate that we're still together. That's the concept of that song. And it was born from the book of titles, just having the next best day.
So there's another question that kind of feeds into that same thing. This is from Adaola Sings. I hope I'm saying that right, on Instagram. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to her question too, but actually this question I wanted to go to was from Gloria Shepherd Gerald on Facebook. How do you decide which song will be a good fit for each artist that you have worked with? And I think we kind of just answered it, because we really write the song for the artist. So as like you said, Terry, we might be sitting with the artist having a conversation, and as we're having the conversation, I might be just noodling around on the keyboard a little bit, and then at some point I'll come across a chord, or I'll come across something that catches their ear, and they'll go, "Ooh, what was that?" And then that's the thing that leads to it. So I think that's the way we feel about it, and the way we work on it. And then Adaola Sings on Instagram. How did it feel to release your first official album as artist? I would say it's still feeling like it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. My analogy was, we used to be like doctors, and so we deliver the baby. Right, we'd be like and we deliver the baby, and we deliver the baby. That was what production was, kind of like, you know, we deliver the song, and then the artist would then take that song and they'd have to nurture it and raise it and all that kind of stuff. And for us, we just move on to the next one, deliver the next baby, or deliver the next song. The big difference now is we're like the parents, so we got to deliver the baby, but now we got to take the baby and we got to feed it and bathe it and, you know, change the diaper and That's the thing that makes it so different this time
Yeah,
around.
that's what you get when you're artists.
Yeah, that's right.
The
When you're
artists,
artists.
you know, that the Bud album.
Oh man.
Got that the
Yeah,
Bud
man.
album out now.
Yeah, that's crazy. But no, we're absolutely enjoying it. Rhonda Delin 9 on Instagram. What other artists would you like to work with in the future? Lots of them. That's why we call the album Volume 1, because, it's 10 songs, about 45 minutes in time. And, like LeBron James said when he went to Miami, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 4. Somebody said they were waiting for Volume 10. So hopefully we get to Volume 10. That would be great.
Yeah.
But there's not only artists that we want to work with still, but there's artists that we haven't heard of them. They're still so new maybe that we haven't even discovered them. And then at that point, we'll work with them. So some of them we don't even know. I think the few people that we always talk about, though, is you probably heard us mention them before. My top of my list is always Sade. It's always the top of my list. And we both agree that Her is very much on our list. And congratulations, Terry Lewis. You have a #1 record this week with Her. Actually, the same one we had a couple weeks ago, but it left #1. But now it went back the #1. It won't go anywhere. It's stubborn.
That's good.
It got knocked down. I think Bruno's song knocked it down to 2 or 3. And then somebody else's song went up and knocked it down to 2 or 3. But it's back. We're back at #1 again.
So. Yeah. Well, we definitely got to do that, man. And,
well, we got to work with Her for real, right?
Yeah, we got to definitely do some Her.
Yep.
And, one of the people that I love, she feels like family to me just because she just comes with the right spirit of the Minneapolis world. And that's Janelle Monáe. Yeah. She just got that thing.
Yeah, she does.
She got that thing, man. And then, we can't leave out Xander. Got to have Xander.
Xander. Oh, yeah, we got to, shoot. Xander. Let Xander and Sherelle.
Xander and Sherelle.
Do something with them together. That would be awesome.
SOS band.
SOS, yep.
Yeah,
And
Mary Davis, yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. And I you know what? It'd also be fun to do New Edition. I know they're getting back together again. So New Edition would be awesome. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I hope that answers the question. There's a lot. And then, we're leaving a ton out, but those are the ones that are coming to mind right now for sure.
Yeah. Well, and somebody mentioned Maxwell. We always love Max. Max is love Maxwell. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Love Maxwell. Yeah, no, definitely Maxwell's definitely in the mix. And I will say Volume 2 is already in the kind of planning stages. We're already kind of working on it. We want to really enjoy Volume 1 and enjoy the whole process of doing that. But we are very inspired by the I will say we're not only inspired by doing the album and finally finishing the album, which has been cool, but we're also very inspired by the reaction that the album has gotten from you guys, from the fans. Has been amazing, really beyond anything we could ever imagine. So you really power us, you really lift us to try to really do our best work, or try to do our best work. And we appreciate that so much. By the way, I have the CD. I don't know whether anybody has it on CD, but we are on CD. And later on, I saw somebody ask about whether we were going to be on vinyl. Yes, we will definitely be on vinyl as soon as possible. There's a backlog of vinyl because there's more demand for vinyl than the companies that can actually make it. So, but we want to do that. We even want to do cassettes. I think we're going to do cassettes. And you never know, we might even sneak up and do an 8-track too, because we're all like that.
Y'all got some 8-tracks?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where you can play it. You might just
have it.
Just have it. Yeah. You might just have it, but no, we're gonna do all of that. The other thing we're gonna do is we're doing all the mixes that are the stereo mixes now. We're also going to do in surround. And actually, part of the reason our show is called Just Listen is because Just Listen is also our technology that's going to give you a whole different way to listen to the album. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming before the end of the year. And hopefully you will enjoy that experience too. Let's do a couple more questions and then we'll let everybody go to back to their lives.
I thought we were lives.
Exactly. Well, somebody's asking about Randall Harper was asking about, are you working with Alexander O'Neill? Yeah, we plan on doing some things with Alexander, as we just said, because that'll be
gotta have
awesome.
Xander.
Yeah, Xander. That would be awesome. BP Will said, on the next album, where there'll be original songs as well as remixes also. And are we going to do music videos for Volume 1 or on Volume 2? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes. There will be more remixes coming. There will be more music videos coming. One of the things we did was what we're working on. We're doing lyric videos for everybody. We showed the Mariah lyric video just as the beginning, but we plan on doing visuals for basically all the songs on the records in some way. So, we still got work. We got a lot of work to do. As we're talking about Volume 2, we still got a lot of work to do still on Volume 1. So that'll definitely do it. Trying to think what else. Let me see. Oh, somebody asked about the philosophy of Volume 1. And the philosophy was really simply just to it's very selfish. We took our favorite artists and then we did the songs that we thought they should do. And the idea was to, I think I might have said it earlier, was to we wanted you to fall back in love with those artists or remember when you fell in love with those artists. So like the Babyface record's a perfect example, is when you hear the Babyface record, it takes you back to that time when you fell in love with Babyface. But it's new. So we call that nostalgia. So that's the idea of the idea of discovery, which is new and fresh, which is great and exciting, but also combining that with the comfort of something familiar, like kind of like meeting an old friend for the very first time, So that's what we wanted the album to be. And hopefully when you hear the album, that's the way you enjoy it. The other thing I'd say for people, I think I'm imagining that most of the people in here have heard the album already or have the album. So thank you very much. I will say that we'd love for you to listen to the album at least the first time that you listen to it. Listen to it as a body of work. The songs are kind of in a particular order, the way we did it. We started with Sounds of Blackness, Till I Found You, because 30 years ago when we started Perspective Records, the Sounds of Blackness was the very first song we did was Optimistic on the Perspective label. And we thought it was important to start this chapter with the Sounds of Blackness. There's no better musical institution out there. They're celebrating 50 years this year and 30 years since Optimistic. So that's pretty amazing. And then the song that ends the album really is the beginning for us, which is Morris Day, along with Jerome, Terry's brother, with a little help from the Roots in Questlove and the Fellas. So called Baby Love. So I think that the album will take you on a journey. If you listen to it, it's 45 minutes. If you get in a traffic jam, you probably can listen to it really good, or over a weekend when you have a little time. But hopefully, somebody said to me that it sounds like a greatest hits album of all new songs, of songs that you haven't heard before. So I don't know whether that's true, but if you feel that way about it, that's a good way to put it. It's hopefully each of the artists sounding their best, the way you would want them to sound doing the songs you want them to do. And like I say, we're selfish. We just did what we wanted to do, and we hope you agree with us. So if you agree with us, that's awesome. I'll do a couple more here. By the way, I'm watching the NBA draft in the background. Are you watching any of that, T?
No, because I'm in a room where I'm not watching TV, Jimmy.
Oh, see there, you got. Come on, man, you got it.
I'm trying to be engaged, but
I'm engaged. I'm just glancing up from time to time.
I'm extremely happy. My son's teammate, Taylor's teammate, was drafted today.
He went third, right?
He went third, yeah, Evan Mobley.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's a unicorn. He would have been first in my book because you can't teach 7 feet.
Yeah, I know, right? Can't teach height.
Yeah, you can't teach that, and he can do it all.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be extremely important in anyone's organization. So
yeah, that's awesome.
But it's a good draft, so it's going to be fun to watch these kids evolve.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Um, Somebody asked, did Steve Hodge do mix engineering on Volume One? He didn't mix on Volume One, but he is definitely involved in some of the engineering on the song, the Babyface song in particular. And that was from Doug Ramsey, was where that question came from. Uh, any plans for Jam and Lewis the Time reunion tour? Well, I
I'll
would
never say
say,
never.
huh?
Never
What
say
did you?
never.
Yeah, never say never.
There, opportunities, timing.
Yeah.
Just so everyone understands, like groups are hard. The dynamics in groups are hard. Everybody has their agendas and things to do, and we grown men.
No, we grown ass men.
Grown ass men. So you got to let people do what they want to do. But should we all get mentally, emotionally, and kind of spiritually in line, who knows what can happen. But right now, I'm trying to get on tour with Jimmy Jam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we trying to definitely get on tour. By the way, we said, and we've said it in interviews, but we'll say it to our friends here. When we got serious about trying to finish this record, we had it was a few years back. We went in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and we were fortunate to go in with Babyface in the same year. And when they asked us, we were on the red carpet answering questions, and they said, "What is it that you guys haven't done that you still want to do?" And we said three things. There's more than three things, but there was three that came to mind. We looked over at Babyface and we said, "We'd love to work with Babyface." And then we said, and we'd like to finish our album that we never finished. The third thing on that list, though, was we never have gone out and played our songs live. And Terry likes to call it a jukebox. We have a whole jukebox full of songs, over 40 years of songs in the jukebox. So the idea to go out and actually play those songs live and really make it a celebration, as this album is, we really characterize it as a celebration of our life, of our musical life. That would be fun to do. And it was interesting the night at the Songwriters Hall of Fame, we actually did play. We played Human and we played Optimistic, which was great. And when we came off stage, that's what people said. And I don't think we necessarily played them that good, but it was fun to play them. And people said, "Man, I've never seen y'all do your own songs." And we're like, "Oh yeah, I guess that is true." So we'll have to figure out, and we'll have to ask you guys what songs you want to hear. Yeah. So we can start putting that set list together, and hopefully next year when things get safe, you'll see us out there, and it will be a lot of fun. So we look forward to doing that for sure. That'll be a good one.
Sounds like a good one.
Sounds like a good one. Okay, T. Well, anything else, man? Should we quit while we're ahead? If we're ahead, I don't know whether we're winning or losing. But fight like we're losing.
Yeah, fight like we're losing, and we'll come back next week and round two.
Yeah. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I enjoyed this. I mean, this is something that me and Terry do all the time. We'll just sit around, reminisce a little bit, talk about stuff, and so this was really cool to do it with a room full of fans and friends. This is very cool. Thank you guys so much.
For those of you who think I don't talk, I'll talk.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, that is true. That's a good point, Terry. That's a good point because
I do have a few words here and there.
So now the myth is busted.
Yeah, I'll talk in this format.
Well, Terry, like I always say, Terry can say in a sentence what it takes me a paragraph to say. And that's why he's such a good songwriter. Efficiency.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Jam, I try not to step in the poop. But some people just don't like honesty, and
True.
I don't know how to do it any other way. So, not trying to offend anyone, but if your feelings get hurt, oh well. Just got to tell the truth as I see it. So, but for you people out there who get offended when you wake up, or you wake up wanting to be offended, please calm that shit down.
Yeah, I agree.
Life is too short. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, I agree. All right. We're going to wrap it. Once again, thank you guys for coming out. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give us suggestions, give us song ideas, subjects you want to talk about, whatever it is. And then we'll hook it up next week. We'll have, we'll add to it. We can't start with everything right away. We got to, not unload things. Unveil. That's the word. We got to unveil different little tricks and stuff. So we might have a little music next week, might have some visuals next week. You never know. We might even have special guests or two.
Ooh, I like special guests.
You like special guests, right? That would be kind of fun, right?
Anything special is good.
Yes, exactly. So
well, I think everybody on here is special.
Isn't that the truth?
You know what? You are great. Just go be it.
Yep. Ain't that the truth? All right. Everybody mask up. Stay safe.
That's right. And let's grow.
Bye, everybody.
Yes.